Welcome to week 15 of Scott's Week in Sports today, ladies and gentlemen. I have a stacked show for you today, so let's get right on into it. Today I'll be talking about the preseason for NFL that starts tonight, and I'll be going down the things that we need to see from teams coming into the weekend as we get closer to the NFL season. So let's start with the first game of the weekend, which is tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, as the Atlanta Falcons head into Hard Rock Stadium to take on the Miami Dolphins. The temperature for tonight's game will be a cool 77 degrees in Miami. So the thing I really want to see in this game for me is, can the Atlanta Falcons come off of that Super Bowl hangover and try and not run into a Super Bowl slump this year after falling 28-3 up and then losing the Super Bowl to the New England Patriots. So I need to see if the Atlanta Falcons can get back on track and continue to steamroll the NFC South like they did last year. Next team up are the Vikings and Bills from New Era Field in Buffalo. The temperature for tonight's game in Buffalo will be a cool 74 degrees. And the thing I want to see in this game is, can Dalvin Cook lead an offense like we saw at Florida State? And the big thing I need to see here is what Dalvin Cook will do in the NFL for the Minnesota Vikings, because when your quarterback is Sam Bradford, you're going to run the ball a lot, because Bradford is not a great quarterback in my opinion. I just do not think he will be very good this year, so I think Dalvin Cook's going to have to take the load on offense this year for the Vikings. So we'll see if he can do that tonight against the Bills. Next up are the Redskins and the Ravens. The big question that I have in this game is, who is going to be the starting quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens now that Joe Flacco is out for a couple of weeks. So we'll see who Coach Harbaugh wants to start in this game for Baltimore. And I also want to see if Kirk Cousins is motivated enough to have a good season for the Redskins this season as well. Next up are the Jags heading into Gillette Stadium in Foxborough to take on the defending Super Bowl champion Patriots. 78 degrees tonight in New England. And the big question that I have this season is, can Blake Bortles have a good season? And he has not shown me that he can yet in the NFL, but we'll see if he can do it this year, because this is Blake or break for him this year, in my opinion. Because if Bortles does not have a good year this year, he could be in some trouble. Maybe getting traded, maybe getting moved. But we'll see what happens with that as we get farther down into the season. Next up are the Saints and the Browns from Cleveland. The big question that I have in this game is what Myles Garrett will do in the NFL. Myles Garrett was the #1 overall pick in the NFL draft, if you guys remember. And I think that he will be a big star in the NFL. But I need to see how he does against a pretty good quarterback in Drew Brees tonight. And also I want to see if Cody Kessler can lead a Browns team to maybe 3-4 wins this year to get into a season high for the last 5 or 6 years. Next up, the Eagles heading into Lambeau to take on the Packers. A cool 67 degrees tonight in Green Bay. And the thing I want to see is, can Carson Wentz take the next step in his career? Last year he looked very good as a rookie last season for the Eagles, but I need to see if he can lead the Eagles possibly in the next couple of years to maybe winning the NFC East and maybe getting a wild card spot possibly as well. So we'll see what that is as well. And also we need to see if Aaron Rodgers is the same Aaron Rodgers that we've seen, but he will not play tonight. So we'll see about that in a couple weeks as well. Next up are the Broncos and the Bears, two teams that I think will have a good season but not great. The Bears are the laughingstock of the NFL right now. The Bears are not going to have a good season. I already know it. They might only win like 2 games this year. I need to see which quarterback is going to come up and get that starting job in Chicago with Glennon and with Mitchell Trubisky. Right now, coming out of training camp, it seems like Trubisky is going to be the starter, but we'll see what happens there. Same problem in Denver. You have 2 quarterbacks that are really young. You just don't know which one to start. Will it be Trevor Siemian or will it be Paxton Lynch? In my opinion, you go with Paxton Lynch because he was your #1 overall first-round pick 2 years ago, so you need to start him. And they were also thinking about maybe trading one of those quarterbacks to A.J. McCarron from Cincinnati, but I think that would lose trust in Paxton Lynch. So I would not do that if I was the GM of the Broncos, John Elway. Next up, the Steelers and Giants Friday night in the MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. The weather for that game will be a nice 81 degrees for the game, and I think this is going to be the best game of the weekend to watch for 2 quarters probably, because I want to see if Big Ben and Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, if he's even signed by then, can click and do what they did last year on offense. And also I need to see if the Giants are what people say they're going to be this year. The Giants are doing very, very well. People are starting to really talk about them maybe winning the NFC East this year. But I just need to see if they are the team that people think they're going to be this year. Friday night in New York. Next up, the Bucs and the Bengals in Cincinnati. The big question that I have in this game is, will O.J. Howard prove to the world that he was the best tight end and probably the best offensive player in this past year's draft? Drafted number 19 in the NFL draft. I think that was way too high for him. He should have been drafted much, much lower. I had him going number 10 in my mock draft to be remembered to the Jets. But we'll see if those 2 new stars that Tampa Bay has on offense, O.J. Howard and Deshaun Jackson, can click with Mike Evans and become one of the best offenses in the NFL. The only problem that I have with this offense is Deshaun Jackson's getting up there in age, so I just don't know if he'll be as good, but he's still one of the best receivers in the NFL, in my opinion. So watch out for that game as well. Next up, the 49ers and the Chiefs from Kansas City at Arrowhead Stadium. The big question that I have in this game is, how much longer can Alex Smith start in the NFL? He's getting up there in age. I need to see if he is a quarterback that can lead these Chiefs to maybe a little bit better of a season than they did last year. They made the playoffs last year, but as they always are, they are a good team in the regular season, but then they have an early exit in the postseason. So I need to see if they are a team that can go a little bit farther this year with Alex Smith getting up there in age and a very good defense for the Chiefs. Now on to the Cowboys and the Rams. No, wait. On to Saturday's games, the Titans heading into MetLife Stadium once again to take on the Jets. And the big question that I have, 2 questions I have for this game. Number 1 is, can Marcus Mariota improve again this year? He was really, really good last year. He did not get injured last year, I think the Titans would have easily won the division last year. But a bad injury for Mariota last year, and I think that the Titans will get that back on track this year. And the Titans, in my opinion, should win the AFC South this year. And then for the Jets, they are a dumpster fire right now. They need to find a player that can lead them to victory. And right now, that defense is looking good. But the big question that I have in this game is, who's going to come up as the number 1 wide receiver for the Jets after they just lost Quincy Enunwa to the season yesterday, or 2 days ago. Yeah, they lost him 2 days ago for the season. So I need to see which of those receivers for the Jets will become the number 1 target for whoever starts at quarterback this season for the Jets. Next game up, the Cowboys heading into LA and Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum to take on the Rams. This should be a very nice game as well. I need to see if Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott are where they were last year in this game. And I also need to see Jared Goff and if he improved. Because if he has, I think the Rams could be a 500 and right around there this season. But if he's not improved, I think they'll be right where they should be, and that is 5 wins on the season for the Rams. But the Cowboys should be one of the favorites to win the NFC this year. Prescott, Elliott, Bryant, Witten. This is a very good team. But I just need to see if they can move up a little bit and maybe win the NFC this season. Next up, the Raiders heading into Arizona and the University of Phoenix Stadium to take on the Arizona Cardinals. These 2 teams met last year in the preseason, and the Raiders won that game pretty easily. So there's 2 questions I have in this game as well. The first question I have is, can Derek Carr make another step forward in his career this season? I need to see if Derek Carr can lead the Raiders to possibly an AFC Championship game this year. Now that he has beast mode Marshawn Lynch in the backfield to go with him, and you also have Amari Cooper and some very good players on that team, but I need to see if this team can take another step forward this year and possibly get one step closer to beating the Patriots in the AFC. And the other question I have in this game is, what is up with Carson Palmer and how many more years can he go? The big question that people were wondering in the offseason was, will Carson Palmer retire? The answer is no, he is back, and we need to see if he can lead a Arizona Cardinal team to a Super Bowl or even better this year. 2 years ago, we saw a Carson Palmer that was absolutely amazing. He led that team and that defense to a championship, to the NFC Championship game 2 years ago when they lost to Carolina. Last year, they were a little bit off last year, right? And this year is going to be a big bounce back here for Arizona. I like them to get into the playoffs this season as well. Now on to Sunday, the Lions heading into Lucas Oil Stadium to take on the Colts. And I think this is going to be a very nice game as well. Two very young quarterbacks in the NFL. The big question that I have in this game is what is going to happen with that offensive line in Indianapolis. Because when you have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in Andrew Luck, you need to protect him and keep him from getting sacked as much as he did last year. So I think if that offensive line can help him out this year, they could be a dark horse to win the AFC South this year and make it back to the playoffs for the first time with Andrew Luck. And the other question that I have in this game is, what is going to happen with Matthew Stafford? He really impressed me last year. I thought he would have a little bit of an off season last year without Megatron Calvin Johnson last year. But he's now starting to throw the ball to his tight end, Eric Ebron, who I had in fantasy last year. And I thought he was a very nice player for me last year in fantasy. So if you have a chance to draft him in fantasy this year, do not be afraid to draft him. He could be one of the best tight ends in the NFL this coming season. And he's also throwing the ball to Golden Tate a little bit more. So I think that the Lions need to find out who is going to be that number one target for Mr. Matthew Stafford this season in this game as well. And the final game for the weekend will be the Seahawks and the Chargers. This should be a very nice game as well in Los Angeles at StubHub Center in California. I think this should be a very nice game. The big question that I have in this game is, will Russell Wilson and this Seattle Seahawks team be as good as people say they are this year? And I think they will. Russell Wilson is going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL this year, and I think that he will definitely improve this year. As last year he was good, but I think he'll be much better this year. Going back to that old 2015 season when he ran the ball with Marshawn, when he threw the ball to the end zone and got picked up on Malcolm Butler in the Super Bowl 3 years ago, back in February of 3 years ago. And the other question I have in this game is with the Chargers and Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers is a good quarterback. He just cannot find a way to get past one of the toughest divisions in football, and that is the AFC West. When you have teams like Denver, Oakland, and Kansas City in your division, it is very hard to win. But I think that he needs to take a step forward this year, and now he's got Melvin Gordon back this season healthy, so I think that this could be a very good Charger team this year, and I think that this could be a very fun weekend to watch in football. And that is all for today's episode, ladies and gentlemen. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Leave in the comments down below who you think is going to be in the Super Bowl this year, and subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you guys next week right here on Scott's Weekend Sports right here on YouTube. See you later, guys.